We know many of our audience think about how they can maximise occupancy with self-funding families. In this episode, I sit down for a care conversation with Harry and George, fellow directors of Care Lodge. And after the recent budget affecting care providers' operational budgets, this topic is more important than ever. Harry, George and myself discuss how care leaders and directors of care home groups can market themselves to self-funding families to offset the costs from the recent budget announcement. We do this by talking through our entire care marketing process, from the channels used to your audiences to what your competitors are doing. This is a must-listen episode for care leaders and directors. Hope you enjoy. Okay, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how care homes can attract self-funding families using digital marketing techniques. We're going to give everyone a kind of run through of our process here at Care Launch. Sound about right?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. It's a really important time to be talking about maximising occupancy with self-funding families, especially after yesterday's budget. I mean, I've had a few phone calls already with care providers that we work with and are good friends with, worrying about how they're going to cover these extra costs. And ultimately, it's going to come down to, one, in the short term, perhaps it's about reducing your cost and finding ways to do that. But ultimately, you have to start bringing in more self-funders into your homes, because they're the ones that are going to start covering those bills.
Yeah, and I think it's even something that, like, this conversation we were having yesterday, like immediately after the budget. So I took a dog for a walk around 12 o'clock so I could listen to what was being announced as I was walking the dog. And my instant reaction as soon as I got home was to look at our outgoings. But okay, where can we save a few pennies so those pounds will look after themselves? And then I started WhatsApping you guys and thought, actually, that's the wrong perspective to be taking. And I feel like it's the perspective that since then, over the last 24 hours, we've seen people want to take, when really we need to switch and go, okay, what is in our control? How can we maximize profitability to, one, keep paying the bills, but also continue to grow our businesses as well? And I think this is when business owners are best, when backs are up against the wall a little bit. But for us, it was to continue to market. And Brendan, you put a video out on LinkedIn today actually explaining again why it is so important now more than ever, more than it was 24 hours ago, to be advertising your care homes or your home care services to self-funding families. So it's probably the best place to start. Why should a care home be marketing to self-funding families?
Well, I think the simple answer there is to help them maximise profitability from the rooms. We know from care providers that the local authority beds don't cover the cost of care, and that's a big issue. And obviously, a lot of care homes that we work with, they're struggling with occupancy as it is. They might have 10 spare beds in a care home. How are they going to fill those homes? Obviously, a lot of them are still doing traditional marketing methods like leaflet drops and local newspaper adverts. And I think as well, it's that transformation towards kind of digital marketing, which we'll kind of get onto. But I think the key point is profitability, increasing that occupancy. And we do that, as we're going to explain, through the care seeker's customer journey. So that's one element of it, increasing profitability. I think another element is actually to help these people, these care homes, stay ahead of competition, because again, lots of these care homes are going to probably shut up shop on their marketing budgets, when actually you should probably do the opposite, capitalize on the movement right now, because that's going to be the best way that you can increase profitability. And also, it's a good method to help actually cut costs in a sense. Lots of staff may not get the pay rises that they wanted from coming up, and actually through kind of digital marketing campaigns around employer branding, we can actually help care homes retain staff. So there's just a couple of benefits that I can think of. Any others from you guys?
Definitely. I think also we just come back from the care show a few weeks ago as well, and the conversation we were having there where a lot of them were struggling with local authorities and actually having local authorities cover the costs of even providing and delivering that care. So it's not like it's a new conversation. It's not like something people haven't already been thinking about. I think in many ways it's just a hand being forced to actually have to start prioritising self-funders and actually then having to be more proactive with that approach. And obviously, like you say, we're going to start running through it today and how you can start attracting those people. The biggest thing, it's funny because we would all admit that I'd probably be on the front foot trying to hook people in when we're at the care show, trying to have conversations, sell our services. The first question would always be, why or how do you attract self-funding families versus local authorities? And Harry, you essentially gave me the answer to that to start using, and the easiest answer to that is that self-funders search and local authorities don't. So everything we're going to be doing today is about how to come first when they're searching through SEO. When they actually get to the website, what's that first impression you're making? It's always different first. You have to think about all those sort of different touch points. That's so important to be successful. And it was the same before the budget, and it's definitely the same after.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that leads really nicely onto the kind of first step in our process. And that's the inbound marketing methodology and what that actually means. We had a good chat with Cordell from Dementia Friendly Barbers on a podcast episode we recorded a couple of days ago. And he was saying how his marketing has switched from an outbound approach to an inbound approach. So in terms of kind of inbound approach, what do we mean by that?
I mean, George, I think you summed it up nicely, which is if we take local authority as an example, that is a much more outbound approach compared to what we traditionally call inbound marketing. So inbound marketing is when you are providing marketing assets designed to bring people back to you. So it may feel like you're actually going outbound because you're producing content and you're pushing content out there. Feels outbound, but it's not, because people will raise their hand and come to you when they are ready. And the big thing that we have seen over time is inbound marketing methodology was made fairly famous by a company called HubSpot, a huge CRM provider. Like if you Google inbound marketing methodology, the first thing that is going to come up is a HubSpot result. So that's probably been around 10, 15 years now as a commonly used term in like the agencies and businesses that we've worked at for the last 10 years. The big shift that we've seen more recently is in where that search is taking place. It's taking place across multiple platforms, but essentially everything tries to have the same output. So we talk a lot about being audience first and using what we call the care seekers customer journey. We're going to talk about the care seekers customer journey a lot as we move into the channel specifics as well. So I think a really great place to go a bit deeper on before we move on to those channels is to talk about what the care seekers customer journey is. So Brendan, maybe just deep dive into that a little bit for us.
Sure. So there's kind of 3 stages of the care seekers customer journey. Awareness, consideration, decision. When a care seeker is starting to think about care, they'll be in the awareness stage. They'll be thinking about the potential problem. It might be at Christmas or Easter. They're with a loved one, elderly loved one, starting to show signs of needing some sort of support. So they're aware of a potential problem. That's why that's the awareness. And that how that translates into search could be what is XYZ. So in this case, what is dementia care? So that they can start to learn about dementia care. As they do that kind of research, again, this isn't a linear process. They might start at the decision and work their way back and vice versa, but it tends to go in these 3 stages. Consideration stage, they've kind of done the research. Okay, I think the problem is this. What are the potential solutions to that problem? So consideration stage content could be, do I need a home care provider, someone coming into my home to provide the care for my loved one? Or do I need, a care home, residential dementia care at a care home local to us? Whichever is best. That's the consideration, that's the research. And there's lots of different ways that you can produce content for that stage. So it could be comparison articles, it could be videos as well, which George will come on to, I'm sure. And then from there, with that content, you start to make a decision on what type of content and where. So decision stage is very much, okay, the family's made the decision, their loved one needs a care home. They're showing signs of dementia, so it's probably dementia care. They're across the country, but they're all kind of the central point. So they're going to be looking at a local area potentially. So they may be putting in search terms into Google or social media like dementia care Mansfield, for instance. And that begins to get into the decision stage. And then they may be looking into kind of more longer tail search terms around dementia care, how to arrange it, what actually happens, what are the process, what's the steps. There's lots of questions and lots of kind of advice, pain points that these families are going through. That's the care seekers customer journey in a kind of nutshell. And it's our job as marketers for care homes to help guide and nurture those families through a seamless experience through that customer journey.
Yeah, and we will, like, we use these terms fairly interchangeably, but across all of the platforms, one of the big words that we'll be using is content, and serving content that provides genuinely helpful information to people at each stage of the customer journey. So I'm wondering, between you guys, it might be good to just go through each of those stages and suggest some types of content that could work really well at all of them. Now, just because you, like you said, you've gone through awareness, consideration, decision, doesn't necessarily mean that when you start working with somebody like Care Launch that we'd be producing the content in that order. Right now, as you know, we've just been speaking about, like, costs are going up, so we need to be bringing in inquiries, self-funding inquiries very quickly. So we'd probably actually start at the bottom end of that funnel, which is the decision stage. So between you guys, what would be some great examples of decision stage content?
Yeah, well, I think even before that, from a content perspective, we are always asking ourselves the question of, why would I watch this if we're putting ourselves, and the I is usually, obviously, as care home marketers, the I that we are putting in is a care manager, a senior member of a care organisation. And so I think that's the place that everyone has to start with, is putting themselves in the shoe of the person that's actually going to be watching that piece of content. So I think going back to Brendan's examples, I think dementia care is a really good example. And so at the very top, the awareness stage content. The content that you're creating for the awareness stage, I think, is perhaps a home tour with your home manager, going through all the things that you do in your home that are dementia specific. Easy for some to say. So, for example, awareness might be showing off the fact that you have someone like Cordell, who's a dementia-friendly barber, in your care home. It might be showing some of the foods that you offer on your menu, and actually how these help people with dementia through nutrition and through just ease of eating, and even just the dementia training that some of your care staff get. A simple video for 60 seconds explaining that process initially gives a sort of wide overlook at everything you guys are thinking about from an awareness perspective, and it should only take 15 to 20 seconds for someone to really understand that you guys are serious and knowledgeable in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. And you back that up with content, again, blog content, guides, whatever it may be, to explain what the services are and also kind of what's involved in those services, so it becomes clear, and you basically guide people through each step that they need to take on the journey that they're going to go on, essentially.
Definitely.
Moving that forward into consideration stage, we're considering options now, aren't we? So it's like, okay, great, how do we do this, how do we do that? One good way, this comes from Ashbury Care Homes, one of our clients. They have a really good idea. They actually do like key fact PDFs. So think about the audience, families sitting there around the kitchen table. They're considering different options. If they can download and print out a PDF of the key facts for each home that they're considering, and then they can compare side by side, that's when you're helping them and nurturing them through the journey. So that's one example from the consideration stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, video is a large part of my my job role at Care Launch, and so that's where my mind always goes to. But with the consideration aspect, I think it's really important that here you are. The difference between someone choosing your care home and another is usually actually very person-centered. It's about trusting that this is the right place to put your loved one. There's a lot of guilt in that decision-making process. And actually, the tipping point can often be something as simple as liking the care home manager and feeling like they actually really care about your individual situation and your individual loved one. So we work with some really great care home managers, and getting them front and center of your website, of your social media, and actually be able to allow potential families to start building that relationship with them. It might sound weird, but if you were seeing someone talk about why they got into care, how they got into care, why they love their job, that you actually influence that person to start already liking them before they've walked through the door. If they have walked through the door, it's just re-emphasizing that this is a place where you can really trust us, that we really care about what we're doing here. And so that's something like a home manager video works perfectly at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, which is, again, to what you're saying about if you put yourself in the shoes of a care seeker, two things always stand out to us, that they're going to feel incredibly stressed. And I think due to perceptions of care in this country, which I'm sure you can talk more about, a lot of people feel incredibly guilty as well about the decisions that they're making. In fact, I think you guys recorded a great interview with someone who said exactly that. So you need to build trust incredibly quickly. And something that can be really good for that is, like you said, like a home manager video. But another thing to think about is, who is it that most frequently is delivering the tours of the home? So when someone says, hey, I'd like to come book and have a look around, who is that person? If it's not the care home manager, whoever that is, get them on your website, get them talking about what is happening in the home, get them talking about the residents, get them talking about how the staff are delivering care. Because that first barrier of trust, like that first handshake, if you like, has already been done. So by the time they get to your home for that tour, it's like, oh, look, there's Brendan. I've already seen him. I know his videos. I know what's going on. And it's just a great way to build trust quickly. And then obviously, finally, we get to the decision stage. So what kind of content are we pushing there?
So here, for me, it's probably helping enable the next step. So you've chosen what you want to do. It's allowing people, convincing them to make the decision one way or the other, and certain bits, it's those final questions that they might need, like moving into care, like what checklist of stuff do you bring into the rooms, for instance, just helping allay any final fears. Again, fees information, funding, fees information, benefits, all of that. It can be done on a range of topics in terms of a pack, a white paper, whatever it is. But all of that decision stage content needs to be on a care home website.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Like, don't hide stuff. And I think that's definitely a question we get a lot about the cost. Is like, oh, do we need to not hide it, but have someone get in touch with us before we start telling people what our costs are? One of the reasons that we get asked that a lot is that, oh, we don't want to put people off if our fees are too high, or we don't want our competition seeing. Like, I think the reality is, it's one of the biggest barriers to someone coming to you is the cost. Like, if you've been trying to buy anything online of some level of expense and you can't find the cost, you know how frustrating it is. And at this point in time, you're stressed, you're anxious, you're maybe feeling a bit guilty. You just want to move as quickly as possible for the most part, right? Yes, this is a considered thing that you're going through, but your care seeker's journey 9 times out of 10 is incredibly short. So if you can give people information quickly, you're already at a competitive advantage.
Absolutely. And I think times are changing slowly, I'm sure. A lot of the families that are, moving loved ones into care potentially, their search habits are changing. We'll go through channels in a bit, but again, they don't want to be ringing up with questions every 5 minutes. Oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? If they can find it easily and quickly on your website, you're on to a win straight away. If they can watch a 30-second, 1-minute video on their website that answers their pain points, their questions, you're helping create a seamless experience for them and helps them nurture and make their decision about care.
Definitely. I think from this conversation, it may seem that content is in a straight line. The things we're talking about here, consideration, awareness, decision, all those sorts of things. But the biggest mistake we see is that people may have this content in line and be pretty good with it, but actually they are so inconsistent with how often they're posting other content, whether that's just celebrations of someone gets in a promotion or just something interesting happening in the home. Content has to be a everyday thing, 365 days. I think people get so caught up on just a sort of linear, how am I getting people into the home, those direct links between this video delivered this. It's not necessarily as black and white as that. It's about constantly having content, going out, showing the life of your home, really giving a window into the world of your home, what it's like to be in there, and actually just sharing all the interesting stories, which is something that as a videographer is so important, but actually so easily done. As you know, Brendan, who we've done countless interviews together, hearing the passions of people in there and how much residents actually tend to enjoy their time in a care home is so interesting. And then on the flip side, unfortunately, care home residents aren't in those homes forever. Unfortunately, they will one day pass away. And so if you are just marketing up to 100% occupancy and you're like, job done, then that's when you're going to, again, encounter problems later. So if you're just constantly creating content every single day, showcasing those stories, that all the things we're talking about here, which are quite detailed and thought through, aren't necessarily as required because you were just constantly putting yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the decision stage as well, I think one of the key elements for any care home, any care provider is social proof. Audiences want to hear from the people that are actually experience what they're going through. So, George, we've done countless testimonial videos for our clients now. Like, being able to hear directly from people that have been there and done it is one of the best ways to convert someone that's sitting on the fence. It's like this choice, that choice. If you've got a video testimonial on your site, that is going to stand you out compared to other care homes.
I think they're probably the most important of all the videos that we do, in all fairness, sharing those resident stories. And they're also, in my mind, quite often my favourite to film. I think you know some of the stories that we hear about the love stories that have lasted for 75 years of marriage, hearing about how they met, some of the mischief they got to when they were younger, to now see them as the person they are in a care home. Going back to misconceptions, a lot of people just think you go into a care home, you're old, and you may have dementia, and you may not be recognisable as that person, but all these people have had lives before, and I find it so interesting getting to hear about them, some of the holidays they went to, the lives that they lived. It's actually a real privilege to get to capture that on camera, and same for a real privilege to get to speak to the care staff. The reasons they do what they do are so inspiring. It's not work that I could do. My sister actually works as a carer, and she'll send me little videos of her day dancing with residents and the relationship she forms with them. It's really, really special stuff. So it often feels like a privilege to get to do what we do, but actually it makes our job a lot simpler, because all we have to do is put them in front of a camera, make them feel comfortable, and just have a real genuine chat, asking them questions that you're genuinely curious about, and you can get some really great answers, really great content. And in some ways, you're actually putting their story out into the world for everyone to see that maybe, may just be forgotten and lost otherwise. Yeah,
it's a great point. And I think as well, marketing is just one piece of the pie. In terms of, think of an aeroplane, you've got the wings. The wings are marketing and sales. Like, marketing only works and functions if you've got the sales side of it kind of put together nicely as well. We're not going to go too much into that, but there's no point getting leads, getting people convinced that you're the right care home, and then their experience as soon as they land at the care home with the visit, if they've got a bad experience there, you'll lose them forever.
And then you mentioned a few other things that I think we have videos that explain. So you mentioned things like page titles, meta descriptions, digital PR campaigns, and things like that. I won't ask you to explain each of those because we can be here a very long time. But I think obviously what we want to get out of this podcast is for people to be able to start effectively marketing to self-funding families through any of the channels. So let's say someone is listening and they decide, okay, SEO sounds like a good fit. Like, I need to get my foundations laid, so I'm going to start with SEO. How does someone get started?
If I was to get started with SEO for care homes, yes, you can probably do the look at the basics of the site in terms of the on-page optimizations, meta titles, meta descriptions, but that's probably too far into the weeds for your in-house teams. You can talk to someone like myself to look into that for you. Where I would start is content. And I would go and speak to the self-funding families in your homes already and see what questions that they had. Create a list of the content and the questions, the pain points that they had, that they wanted answered during their kind of journey, and start producing that content, be it blogs, videos, target pages, whatever it may be. Build up that content, and you can structure it using a system called topic clustering, time-tested marketing approach. There basically means building pillar topics and building content around that topic. So using the process of customer journeys as well. That's where I'd start with kind of SEO. Anyone can pretty much do that. Obviously, to kind of get that strategy in place with any care homes that are kind of time poor or resource poor internally when it comes to marketing, talk to us.
Yeah, I agree. I think we like I said, we can share this in the show notes as well. We have a full marketing course that goes through each of the channels, because one of the things that you can do on top of that, like you say, is you go ask them what the questions are. You can then type those questions into some tools that will tell you how many other people are asking those questions, which can be a great way to prioritize as well. Like, we know many care home marketing managers are incredibly time poor, so being able to prioritize the things that are going to make the biggest difference quickly is also really important. And the other thing that I will say is that video is an incredibly important supportive tool to the content that you're creating. So when Brennan talks about content, it is easy to think that we're talking about just things like a blog post like that. When you think of SEO, immediately when you say content, people's minds turn to writing blog posts. But the content we should be producing, the audience first content that we should be producing, should be more than just blog posts. So yeah, maybe worth, George, you just talking a little bit here with Brendan as well about how Brendan's search strategies can influence where you go with your videos that are being produced.
I have to say, it was a very impressive way you looped around from SEO to video there, Harry. It's very impressed. Also, so for the people who are watching, they probably see me constantly looking at the cameras because I'm used to monitoring it from behind the lens. But weirdly, today I had my first experience actually being on a podcast. And I had a thought that I'm very surprised Harry didn't want to have his t-shirt on without the jacket to show off his hard work in the gym, rather than me being able to out-angle him a little bit.
When you were talking, I'm just
because recently didn't he tell us, Brendan, that he hadn't seen his fiance's mum for a little while, and first time picked her up from the airport. What did she say to you, Harry, before you get on into video?
I'm glad you brought this up, George.
I thought you'd like it.
The one thing that I'm also doing a triathlon next year. That
you've not told us.
Hasn't brought that one up, but yeah. So Alina, my fiance, we went to the airport to pick her mum up, and obviously for most of the car journey home, they were speaking Russian, and my Russian isn't so good yet. But when we got back to the house, she comes over to me, she puts her arms on my shoulders and goes, "Harry, you're looking very big." And you know what? I could not wait. I could not sleep all night. I was so excited to get back to the office going, lads, guess what? Alina's mum said I was looking big.
So that's what you do. Whilst me and George are travelling the country, going to all these video shoots at care homes, you're in the gym.
Yeah.
That is how it works, isn't it?
Helps the mind.
Yeah, that is how it tends to work. But yeah, bring it back to video anyway.
Yeah, good side note.
A little side note on Harry's hard work in the gym. I'm trying to catch up to him. Is you mentioned, I think at the very top of that is topic clustering, which is a very similar thought process to we have when it comes to content strategies for videos. I mean, we probably call it more parent topics. So when it comes to topic clustering, you're thinking about, an example might be dementia care, one we've already spoken about, or how to avoid loneliness in a care home. They are your topic clusters or your parent topic. And then what you think about is all the things that come around that main topic. So whether it's sort of helping someone with loneliness, it's about what activities can care homes provide to prevent loneliness. What shift patterns for staff help avoid loneliness? What should a ideal residence day look like? Are different topics around that main central piece. So there's countless. You could end up with 10 topics around this one main topic and do that hundreds of times. But for this instance, if we're taking how to avoid loneliness in a care home and then bringing that down into how we're actually showing that off and some content ideas, one of them could be, for example, the home manager talking about how the home helps avoid loneliness in your care home, talking about 3 strategies that they do to do that. Additionally, you could be taken on a day in the life with one of the care staff and actually get to see how they do that in practice. A full day of what the activities look like in the home to give those some real ideas. And so we're talking about different topic ideas there, different content ideas or ways to show that. But again, you can go so much deeper than that. There's so many different ways to do it, whether you are getting more TikTok native, which is something we're starting to think about more. You can do green screen videos on there. So it could be simply a talk to camera can now be done in 3 different formats. So the point I'm trying to make is that you have one main topic, multiple around that, and then you have multiple ways you can then show that. So the possibilities are endless. And again, like what Brendan talked about with SEO, is it's all about answering people's problems, showing people that you can be trusted, and then becoming someone's care provider of choice in the local area. And that works great with SEO because we're all trying to essentially solve the same issues. I might overstep my welcome a little bit, but I believe that having videos on your page, I'm assuming that Google or Bing would then transcribe that video packs about dementia and start pushing your pages that you're doing to local audiences. I could be wrong in saying that.
Okay, you're training well, even mentioning Bing.
Exactly.
The lesser forgotten search engine. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a stat which I think is, if a video is present on what we'd call the search engine results page, so just when you Google the page that comes up, if a video is present, I think it's 5 times more likely to be clicked on than just a standard search result.
Yeah,
I think also there's 17,000 care homes in the UK, something mad like that. We have spoken at the top of this podcast about kind of breaking through competition, keeping ahead of your competition. not every single care home website has got videos.
No.
As soon as you put videos on, it helps you stand out. It gives, remember, those families are probably, some of them will be in a rush to find care placement. They need information quickly. What's the best way to get that information through to families? It's going to be those short, sharp, 30-second, 1 minute long videos
absolutely.
that give the information. So videos are a real kind of highlight, if you will, of a marketing strategy.
Yeah, and it's been something that's changed within like my time in the industry. Like video obviously was very inaccessible 10 years ago. It was very expensive. You needed a lot of equipment. Through to now where it's incredibly accessible. Like we see people like Bailey from Be Great Fitness, for example, racking up millions of views with an iPhone.
Yeah.
So the barrier to entry to getting those videos on the site is so much smaller now. I think that's really important because more and more now putting thinking personally how we'll search and how we know care seekers are searching is that people are searching everywhere. So a search could be on social, it could be through Google search, it could be through a newsletter drop. Like however it's happening, the search is taking place across multiple platforms, as well as going back and forth through those different stages of the customer journey. So what we really love about SEO and video is they set those foundations for all the other channels that you can be working on. So the one that naturally comes to mind there is paid advertising. You can do paid advertising on a couple of channels, but let's say you've produced those videos.
Yeah.
So I'm going to walk you through an example that we did quite recently, which is, Brendan, you exported what we'd call the people also ask questions on Google. So you typed in like dementia care as the top line term. You'll see those people also ask questions that come up on Google. Brendan exported all of those, put them into a tool to see who, like the ones that were most commonly searched. We then took those to one of our care homes, and we asked the care home manager to answer those videos. George, you film those videos.
Yep.
Great, we've got those for SEO, but where else can we put those?
Yeah,
Well, we could put them where
100%.
other people are. So Facebook groups is a great example. Like someone said to us when we were doing some short form content a while ago that Facebook groups, like those local pages where I live in Northampton, for example. So like the Northampton Facebook group, that's like the new town hall. If you want to know about what's going on in Northampton,
It's true.
you go to that Facebook group. So you could put those answers there. You could also put those on Facebook ads as well. So you can turn that content into multiple distribution routes.
Yeah, Harry's just sort of stolen my point there. In all
He
fairness,
stole my segue
What
as
a-
well.
cheeky, isn't he? But no, I think the point that Harry's making, how one SEO and video and paid ads are so interlinked, is the fact that an idea you have for a blog post can equally be an idea that you have for a video. And what's most exciting now, I think we're almost in a golden era of video currently, is that vertical is becoming such a big thing. LinkedIn's now offering vertical, which is a new development. Instagram, TikTok, which again, as I've said already, is often
What do you mean by vertical?
So vertical is the shape of your iPhone screen, and what makes it so exciting is, one, it means you can distribute the same vertical piece of content across multiple platforms. So it's no extra legwork to be across everything. So you can have a multi-platform approach, way simpler. And secondly is, if vertical is the dimension everyone's consuming content in, and the format is on socials, then it makes it so much easier to make that content on your phone. It's content filmed on a phone for people to then consume it on a phone. It's so much easier today than it was even 5 years ago. There's not necessarily a need for certain videos to have a camera team, which I think lowers budget needs, and it comes down to having a really thought out content strategy.
So that's the benefit for marketing teams, absolutely, for kind of vertical videos and stuff.
Yeah.
For the audience as well. Think about the audience. Think about the care-seeking families. So it's probably likely going to be a parent or grandparent that's going to be the one going into care. You're going to have parents. You're going to have grandkids looking like the grandkids are going to be on TikTok. The grandkids are going to be on Instagram. They're going to be seeing those videos. The parents are probably, I don't want to cast aspersions, but they may be a bit more, old school and actually like go on Google and look at websites and read the blog posts. What we are doing with marketing and why all of the channels connected together is so important, touch points. Each process, each care seeker's journey one might have 3 or 4 touch points, another might have 50 touch points. All we're doing is making sure that your care home is front and centre at each one of those care points.
Definitely.
That's it.
We'll get back to ads in a second, Harry. Like, sort of carry on with that. But when it comes to touch points and needing a needing a multi-platform approach or a different combination of services to actually market your care home, I think that's essentially the basis of what Care Launch was formed on. Is that you guys have been doing SEO, websites, paid ads for 10 years. I've been behind a camera for 7. And that's where the idea to bring it all together came from having conversations with care providers, having to go to one place for your video, one place for your SEO, one place for your paid ads. That actually, if we bring that all together, then we have an oversight of how it's all working in unison. And I think ultimately that's what makes Care Launch unique, but also suggests how important we believe that is for care homes doing, whether they work with us or to be building that ecosystem internally, I suppose. But yeah, Harry, back to paid ads, which is obviously sort of the third prong of what we do.
I think we can, for the sake of time and accessibility, I think the best place to actually start is offline to get into ads. Yeah. So most care homes and care providers that we speak to are fairly comfortable with the process of distributing some kind of offline marketing. So normally when we're talking about that, it's either ads in news.
Sorry, you continue. I'm going to go get a piece of offline marketing from a care home to show to camera.
Oh, okay. All right. I like it. So whilst Brendan does that, as I was saying, so they're very familiar and with the process of producing offline marketing, even news ads or leaflet drops and things like that. And most homes have that running. So what is a really accessible way of getting started with paid advertising is in the exact locations that you're running those leaflet drops, you can do something called a pin drop campaign on Facebook. So essentially what that is you create your Facebook ad. Superb demonstration. Here's one you made earlier.
News for the team there.
Hang on, George, you're so young. Do you remember like the Blue Peter and that?
Yeah. I've watched
cool.
Blue Peter.
Right.
I'm not quite that young.
Do they still do Blue Peter badges?
I don't know. I haven't seen it for years.
They must do, surely. I always wanted one as a kid. Anyway,
I did always want one.
So yeah, you've got, where you're doing your local ads. Pin drop ads are basically you can just drop a pin on a map and specify a radius, whether that be 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever it may be. That's really accessible because you don't have to think too much. Whatever is on your offline ad, take the most important piece of information from that. That's your headline copy. Get one of the videos that you've produced, ideally something like a resident or self-funding family testimonial, and just run that in the same place that you're running your offline ads is a great way to start with paid advertising. We've covered a few channels there, right? So we've got SEO, we've got video. I was going to say we got ads. We talk about offline.
Yeah.
All of that is focused on one goal before a goal. Is probably how I describe it, which is you're trying to funnel everybody to your website to then take action, whether that be a phone call, submitting an inquiry, whatever it may be. But we also see that as quite a big blocker, which is we can build all this traffic, we can get that funnel working really nicely, then they get to your online shopfront. And if your online shopfront isn't up to scratch, all that hard work that you spent months doing and budget doing as well can be wasted. So Brendan, talk to us about 2 things. One, which is what makes a good website, and what are the signs that your website might be underperforming?
For me, building a good care home website starts with the navigation. We've already talked about the audience wanting clear, concise information. If they can't find it, you're in trouble from the get-go. So navigation is clear. Now, one of our clients are building a new site and their naming conventions are too complicated. They call internally their dementia care, dementia residential and nursing care. Now, if you split that out to dementia nursing care, for instance, that has a search volume of 50 searches a month.
Across the UK?
Across the UK. Dementia care, the standard naming, 2,200 searches a month across the UK. Okay, so huge difference in naming conventions. Google's still a pretty simple beast in terms of keywords. Get the exact keyword, dementia care, and you rank for dementia care. So that's one good place to start, navigation. From there, it's the standard bits. Your images, you want to make sure they're a fair representation of your care home. They good quality images. So spend the money to get a proper photographer. Don't just get Sally down the road to come in and take pictures. Don't use stock images.
You see that a lot, right? Which you go on one site and then go to the other site and like, oh, they've got the exact same people working there.
Yeah, you can tell because the same nurse appears on BBC News as appears on about 4 different care home websites. I understand. So that's images. Copy, good quality copy that answers the questions. You want to break down the information into bite-sized chunks as well. So use bullet points and use kind of like formatting to help produce and present the information in the right way. And then I think any website that has a certain set of videos is going to win out. So websites need to have those videos and how they're hosted, all the technical elements. Again, an agency like ourselves could better handle that for internal teams. But yeah, George, for a website, what are the kind of 3 or 4 key videos that people need?
So key videos for your website is when someone comes onto that homepage. It's all about having what we would call a welcome video, I suppose. And this is a general overview of your home. This is hearing the thoughts of different team members, of residents, of loved ones, getting a general point of view, the best bits of what they think about your home in a talking head format with some B-roll. We obviously really like drone videography to sort of show off the grounds if there's something that's sort of a statement piece of the home. But really that's about just getting a overall feel about what it would be like to, one, have someone live in there, understand some of the personalities behind the home, which is a big part of everything we talk about, and share some of the stories. But it's really, that video is a tip of the iceberg, but gives you enough to want to, one, learn more, but also get a quick understanding of what that home is about. Again, talking about the customer journey, someone may then want to go and look at the testimonials page. What is this place actually about? And that's where we'd have further videos with family members, with loved ones, talking about how they've actually found the care firsthand. Do they think it's a good place to put their loved one? And a lot of stories we tell are about people feeling guilty initially, and then having put their loved one in the home. After a few months, they settle, and actually it's so much better for them because they get a bit of freedom back, and ultimately now have someone where they know that their loved one's safe. So if you are telling that story through that video, it's instantly going to settle the nerves of someone who is in that exact same position, thinking the exact same things as that family were before they made that move to put someone into care. Off that would then be to meet the team video, which can either be just the manager or all the team members, again, going even further into telling some of the best stories that are in that home. One of the best ones that I can recall is someone actually staging their wedding at the care home because they believed that as they worked there, it was also sort of their second home. They spent so much time there, and then be able to share some of the photos of the residents in suits throwing flowers over them when they got married and stuff. Is really, really nice imagery, and I think speaks to that family environment that's so important that other people want to put their loved one into. So I think across the website, they are probably the most crucial videos that you need to have.
Absolutely, and I think one of the key elements for a care-seeking family, they want to trust whichever care home, whichever care provider they are going to use to look after their loved ones. For me, how you do this, I think the care industry is built on personal connections.
Definitely.
Don't be afraid to get that personal kind of flavour across the website, across the touch points. Care homes are almost too scared to actually describe themselves or talk about themselves using certain words, be it affordable or, luxury, certain bits and pieces. You want to get your brand out there. You want to get your show off what the brand is about on your website. So don't be afraid to really think about that and really put yourself in front of the audience in your best light.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So 2 things actually. First of all, what were the videos, if you could just summarize them?
A welcome video, which is a sort of general overview of the home and people behind it. A testimonial video, which is the views and thoughts of a resident or their loved one. And then the other one would be a meet the team or manager interview.
And what I love about that, and then the point that you just made there as well, is something that we're starting to say to a lot of our care providers, is to challenge them to say, whatever you're putting on your website has to be uniquely you. It's not something that we could just lift and shift and put on another care home website.
Yeah.
Everything has to be focused on, I guess, the buzzword of 2024, authenticity. The things that make you uniquely you are going to be the reason why someone chooses you. And we know that, right? We've spoken to probably hundreds of residents' families now, and the reason that they cite for choosing that home to put their loved one in has always been some level of personal connection with something or someone at one of those homes.
Yeah, absolutely. Features. I remember one of the first testimonials we ever did at Engelberg Care Home. The reason that they chose that care home was for religious purposes, because it had a chaplain involved. Simple, small features that care home teams often forget about. We've mentioned Bailey at Be Great Fitness, them going into care homes, providing activity sessions. That could be a unique selling point.
Yeah, I think just on Bailey, I know we're currently talking about websites, but website and content are so interlinked, is that we mentioned here that things that require professional teams to come in and do, and they're definitely important to have on your online shop front, which is the website. But just sort of a side note on Bailey is that he's a 21-year-old activities coordinator, essentially is what he started off as. Now runs a company called Be Great Fitness. They have multiple personal trainers delivering some great activity in some really interesting homes, such as Tanglewood. What has made him so impressive is that he, at the start, didn't have a budget for a video team. And so just started off with his phone, set it up, and while he was interacting with the residents, just filmed some of the funny things that happened during his day. And there's bound to be funny things happening, because these are, a lot of times, are some really funny people in those homes, and that those bonds are really noteworthy and story-worthy stuff. So if you can't start with high budget stuff we're talking about, which whilst important, if you haven't got the budget for it, then it is about doing those things on the phone, doing what you can do. You can get testimonial videos done on your phone. Maybe the welcome video might be a little bit more difficult, but just getting people talking to camera and having a place for that on your site somewhere is equally really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also when we talk about kind of online sources as well, a big area that's often not always kind of optimized is the comparison sites. They own a lot of the landscape online. So Autumna, carehome.co.uk, homecare.co.uk. Make sure your profiles on there are as optimized as possible. It's a similar sort of process to SEO on your own website, making sure that images, the videos you produced, you can put on there and stuff. It's all about those different touch points for care-seeking families. Some will go to those kind of sites. Some will look for websites directly. So yeah,
I think that's a great point, actually, because when we had when you interviewed and sat down with Debbie Harris, one of the things that she said about those videos was, if you've gone to the effort of making them, you need to get them seen. And you can upload them to all of those, like you said, Autumna, Lottie, whatever it may be. You can put your videos on there. So again, turn one video into many videos, but turn that one video and distribute it on multiple different channels as well. But unfortunately, the sun's starting to go down before 4 o'clock because of the time of year. So we probably need to start rounding this episode out a little bit. So yeah, Brendan, I think 2 questions for you really, which is, give us a quick summary, and then what is the one thing that you would like people to take away from the episode?
I think my kind of summary of this is, you've got to think about your audience first. Understand the care-seeking families, what they're going through. Go and ask them questions. Go and ask them about their journey. Go and ask about the residents and their families already in your homes, what it's been like. Then consider how best you can talk to them. Different locations may have different kind of niches, elements like that, subjects. Different services may have different kind of channels. Our recommendation would always be a multi-channel approach: SEO, video, PPC, social, and a good optimized website, along with offline kind of sources as well, because that's still important in today's world. That's how I would kind of operate and summarize it there. And I think my favorite bit of advice is, if you're unsure, just reach out. Like, we are here ready to help care homes with any kind of questions that they have with marketing. We speak to care homes regularly, just they have off the cuff kind of questions there. And, there's a lot of information as well. So all of this that we've talked about today is part of a full marketing course that we've got online. We can share the link, so just comment course underneath. And
I think my one takeaway that I would want every care home provider to take from this episode, and just in general, is don't forget about story, and use a story to underpin everything you're doing. we can come in and produce some really fancy content with some great cameras, but ultimately, if the stories aren't there, then it's not going to resonate with your self-funding families that you're looking to speak to. So really think about stories that are in your home. Start asking around why does Sally, I don't know why we're using the name Sally so often, but why does Sally work in your care home? She might have had a loved one that had dementia and she wants to give something back. Why, let me pause a second. John, who is now 92, ask him some questions about his life. There's so many interesting stories in your care home that you are leaving on the table to start resonating with self-funding families and also just doing the great work of getting these stories heard.
Great point, George. The way we tend to work with in-house marketing teams at care homes, if they have them, is they will look after the everyday colour pieces, where we'll look after the holistic marketing strategy so that they're seen and found online.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Is that a wrap, boys?
I think it is. Yeah, I think so.
Good work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to say we've got some great marketing tools down below that you can access. A free marketing guide as well. Hope that was useful for any care providers that are listening.
We need to start wrapping this up because, and I quote, "The light is hurting George's eyes."
It's true. It's been a long hour, or however long it's been, packed full of information.
And this is where we find one of the cameras has lost its battery and the other one's memory card is
that
completely
one's
full.
still on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's on, and this thing's recording. So, perfect.
Good work.